I want to make my body as long as possible, so the gun is as far from as possible. I do that by making my arms go straight and my butt go back. If he's got longer arms, he might still reach the gun, but I put so much length between the gun and him that I have a good chance of what? Denying him the weapon. I don't want to see this happening. The line of fire is pointed downward now. There's actually two problems. One is, this is not a guarantee, but the line of fire is certainly closer to my feet and my legs than it was a second ago. You guys agree with that? And I'm also worried about ricochet. So I don't go out to the side, I go straight back. And what Tony feels is some version of that. Good. So today we're talking about a couple of techniques in a situation we would call gun hostage. If Tony's pointing the gun at me, then obviously he's threatening me in this scenario, but I'm not necessarily a hostage. He wants a thing from me, so I can make all kinds of techniques from here. The hostage situation we're going to talk about are when Tony has control of my body and he's actually using me to threaten other people as well. Redirect control. When I cap it, I'm using the palm, not my fingers. My fingers might slip off, they might bend, but the palm is a bit more of a steady platform. This is better for me. Now from here, I'm actually going to make the disarm before I attack him, because it's the strongest movement I can make. I'm pulling the muzzle, the line of fire, back toward Tony, and I'm pushing on the back strap, the back of the slide, the hammer, this area of the gun. I'm pushing that forward at the same time, making leverage. And Tony should feel his wrist almost snapping or bending back toward himself. That's what I want. Then I take the weapon away from him. Notice I made a distinction there. The act of disarming is actually that aggressive motion. And Tony can feel his grip is probably gone, but his hand is still near the weapon. I don't want that. So this next part, which is the most dramatic part, is actually not quite the disarm. This is just me making sure he can't touch the gun anymore. And from here, we're going to counterattack, and then we're going to make distance and make the weapon ready if you know how. This is our technique for basic gun hostage. And when I move, my hands, when they're here, it's a little bit harder for him to see. My hands down here flapping up like this, he would see it a bit sooner. So hands closer to your own chest is probably a more tactical way to start. We're good on that? Sure. We're going to add to it now. I make that pluck or that grab. I pull the line of fire forward. Immediately, I put my hand behind the weapon. Now, there are actually two things happening here if you watch from this angle. As I pluck forward, my head is moving back slightly. Right? Careful when you do this, don't throw your balance off. When I make the redirection and the control, I'm trying to keep the line of fire pointed forward. There are a couple reasons for this. One, ultimately it's better control for me, because look where my elbow is. It's underneath the weapon and that little platform I've created here. Now, if we're struggling, it's going to move around a little bit, but I have more security and stability in my control if my elbow's down here. What I don't want to see, what some of you are doing is, it's a thing to be aware of, not a hard fix, but you have to be aware of it. I don't want to see this happening. The line of fire is pointed downward now. There's actually two problems. One is, this is not a guarantee, but the line of fire is certainly closer to my feet and my legs than it was a second ago. You guys agree with that? And I'm also worried about ricochet, so I don't want this pointed downward here. A, because I might get shot. But more importantly, this platform for stability is less for me. We're going to struggle in a minute. As Tony struggles for the gun, look how much it moves, because my elbow wasn't supporting my position. If instead, you make a pluck where the line of fire points forward, A, line of fire is farther from you, and B, that stable platform of my elbow helps me control the fight a little bit more. I'm obviously not in a great position, but I have a little more control than I did a second ago. You might be fighting, struggling from this position for several seconds before we get a chance to do the next bit. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes, sir. But when I can do the next bit, all I'm going to do next is snap the gun back toward him. I don't even want this part yet. That's an important part, but don't do it yet. Just feel your ability, Tony, please, to snap the gun. And all I'm doing, redirect control with my right hand, the hand grabbing the barrel, I'm punching it straight back toward the bad guy. I am not flaring it out here. It's going straight back at Tony. And at the same time, the left hand, the one at the back of the slide, is pushing straight forward. I'm doing that. Now, if you watch the gun, just hold your hand up. What's happening is the gun is not flaring around his wrist. It's actually going right through his wrist. And it's super uncomfortable for the bad guy. When you snap it back, you're actually going to jam the trigger guard right in the direction of the finger. So it's not going to break. Understood? It's going to hurt your partner, especially if you're doing 20, 30 reps. So don't put your finger there. But those of you practicing the technique itself, this technique is not going to break the bad guy's finger. It's going to cause abrasions, it's going to hurt him a little bit, cause pain, which is fine with me, but it's not going to break it. The more I make my arm go out to the side, The more Tony's wrist, elbow, and shoulder are following my movement, and the less he's going to feel the force. I don't want that. I want to move, this is basic joint lock stuff. I want to move my force in a direction what? That compromises the joint, not allows for its movement. So I don't go out to the side, I go straight back. And what Tony feels is some version of that. And that's why he lets go. But once I make this break action, then I take the weapon away. I stretch my arms forward and I push my hips back. Basically, I'm doing the booty bump. I want to make my body as long as possible so the gun is as far from as possible. I do that by making my arms go straight and my butt go back. If he's got longer arms, he might still reach the gun, but I put so much length between the gun and him that I have a good chance of what? Denying him the weapon now. As soon as I make this motion, I'm allowing the gun to be grabbed in my left hand. I'm switching hands with it. And from here, my right hand is doing an elbow to the stomach, then an elbow to the face. Now, switching of the hands could be an issue. And if you guys want, I'll give you a couple options, but we recommend this one. Redirect, control, break, take. From here, my left hand has the gun now. I give an elbow to the stomach. I don't like elbowing the stomach. People have strong stomachs and they're adrenalized also. So unless I hit the sternum, it's not great. The reason I'm doing it is because look where Tony's arm is. And that's not artificial for training. He is likely to be what? He wants the gun. So there's a very good chance that his arm is what? Over mine and blocking an elbow. If it's not there, give that first elbow to the face instead. It's what I prefer. But I'm assuming that this is the logical position for both of us to be in this snapshot of the fight. So from here, elbow to the stomach, elbow to the face, and then you're backing out. If you don't feel comfortable making this switch of your hands, you could give, the gun's probably being gripped, white knuckle grip probably, in your right hand. You can give the elbow with the gun in the hand. Why do you think we don't prefer this? Yeah, and I don't think this bad guy is going to snatch or pluck the gun from my grip right away. If he can do that, he's a badass, and it's an honor to be killed by that guy. But I think he's going to be grabbing me and bear hugging me and doing things to what? To win the fight. So I think that although so in my way of thinking, it's less likely he's going to pluck the gun from me. It's quite possible that as I give him the elbow, he just bear hugs me, and look, and now the gun's back in his reach, and now we're both fighting for the gun again. Does that make sense? So I don't prefer that. If you do it, it's not terrible, but I'd rather keep the gun away from him. I did all that work to keep it away from him, so keep it there. One more comment. Along the same lines, actually, I have a little sidebar. I've trained with a lot of people who live their whole lives with a gun in their hand. That's what they make their living. And a lot of them are right-handed. And once they get the gun in this hand, they don't want to change it. So there are a lot of guys who I train and work with who don't do what I just recommended. They keep the gun in the hand, and they give elbows here. They're slashing and punching. They're doing things like that. So it's not that it's wrong, but you have to have a lot of comfort level, with a lot of in-close work with the firearm to do that. For most of us, we don't have that training. We're not living that life every day. So I recommend keeping the gun away from him and using an empty hand to strike. Make sense? Sure. I don't prefer, once I've done this, I don't prefer a back kick. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm telling you that, in my opinion, once I had a weapon in my hand, his mistake was using a fairly long-range weapon at close range to me. I don't want to make the same mistakes. So I know that once I have the gun, I want to use my feet to do what? Get away, make distance, not to kick him. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to kick him, but I feel like I'm better off getting away doing this than staying close to him giving that. So I'm not saying it's wrong for you to kick, but in general, you have the gun now. Make distance, make it ready. Clear enough? Sure. Okay.